Hello and welcome. Back in 1989, a young Michael Knighton agreed to buy Manchester United for £10 million. It was all part of a £20 million package that included redeveloping the Stretford End. Well, I'm pleased to say that Michael joins us today. He's welcomed us to his home. And I'd like to start, Michael, by asking you about that famous day when you juggled the ball in front of the Stretford End and knocked the ball in the back of the net. Tell us about what you remember from that day and what kind of reaction did you expect?
Well, first of all, John, thank you for coming to see me, and thank you for maintaining an interest in those wonderful days back in 1989. Yeah, wonderful. 1989, 19th of August, first day of the season, visiting champions Arsenal. And of course, wonderful day, wonderful victory. Pre-match entertainment, Michael Knighton juggling a ball. Do you know, I look back on that time and it's what every schoolboy would want to do. But there was logic behind my cameo piece. I wanted to bridge the gap between the boardroom and the terraces and show people, look, I'm a football fan first, a businessman second. And I can play a bit too. But really, it was an exercise in public relations to say to the fans on the terraces, I'm here. I'm not here to rip your club off. I'm here because I'm a football fan and I believe I can change this wonderful football club into where it should be, which is the greatest football club in the world, bar none. And from that day, to be fair, I don't think the club ever looked back, John.
We all cheered you because we saw this as a guy who's obviously a football guy. He can play football. He wants to do something good for our team. And we were hopeful that you're going to do something good. And I get the impression now that really the media didn't really play fair with you. I don't think you were very well represented. And that's why I've come to see you, really, because I wanted to know what the real story was and find out from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Well, thanks, John. Look, there's always two sides to a story. The media are the media. The media are sensationalists. They want to look, and quite rightly, they want to look under the microscope at everything. But Robert Maxwell, you remember, was trying to buy, or had tried to buy the club just before my appearance on the scene. And to him, I was an unknown, and he would have thought, well, who is this guy? How come he secured a contract that I failed to seal? And of course, he was awesomely powerful in the 80s. He owned the Daily Mirror. He owned the Daily Record in Scotland, Sporting Life. And really, a lot of his reports were picked upon by the rest of the tabloids. You know, I didn't have the money to buy the club, which of course was a nonsense. And I think one article said I was going to put Asda or a supermarket on Old Trafford. They were absurd stories. But in the end, I aborted that deal because Martin Edwards invited me onto the board of directors. And that's where I was able to make a full contribution to the future of Manchester United. And it was a great privilege, a great honour, and I enjoyed every single minute.
I spent a couple of days talking about football and other things, which we'll come on to later. But one of the things that struck my mind was obviously Monday was the transfer deadline, and you were talking about when you were chairman-elect.
Yes.
And Fergie wanted to sign Gary Pallister, and you said, whatever it takes, just get it done.
Well, absolutely. And I'm sure Alex will remember this. I'd only been there about 7 days. And Martin and I and our respective lawyers, we had signed an irrevocable option to purchase agreement. And we then had to do the due diligence period. So effectively, yes, I was chairman-elect for that period of those 6 weeks, 62 days. But I'd only been there 7 days. Martin Edwards said, Alex wants a word with you. So we all toddled off into a side room. And Alex, in his inimitable way, said, Michael, Gary Pallister, we need to buy Gary Pallister. Chairman Martin wasn't keen to exceed about £1.8 million to buy Gary. It was obvious, me being an ex-player, ex-PE teacher, of course, I knew all about Gary Pallister. What a prospect, what a fine young player. Alex was spot on as always. Of course we needed him. And you're right. I did say, Alex, go out and buy that player, whatever it costs. So I did shake the tree of Manchester United to make sure we could go and secure the likes of Gary Pallister. I'm sure Martin wouldn't have done that, but he obviously thought he was spending my money or under my jurisdiction at the club at that time. And Alex went to break the British record, 2.3 million, I think we paid for Gary. Sounds peanuts today. But it was the biggest transfer deal in history at that time. And look at Gary Pallister. He became a stalwart. He became a brilliant success. Took a while to bed in, to be fair. 6 or 7, 8 games. But once he did, he was one of the key players and the bedrock to really secure that wonderful run of Alex Ferguson, who of course became the greatest manager ever lived. And he went on to win 13 Premier League trophies, and the rest is history. It was a wonderful period. Gary Pallister was a key part to that whole jigsaw. So yeah, I can remember that very well. I'm sure Alex can. Martin Edwards might not want to remember it, but it's true.
What I'd like to say is, obviously football fans, well, Manchester United fans, of course, over the last few months have been hoping that the football club would sign Jadon Sancho. And to hear a guy who was in charge to say to the manager, whatever it takes, go and sign him. I just wonder what kind of conversation we might have heard if you've been in the boardroom these last few months.
Well, it was a saga and it dragged on. And I did question, I thought, what is happening at Old Trafford? Why are they making these announcements? For example, last summer, they're going to sign this player, they're going to sign that player, and then they don't drive those deals home. So there's always two sides to a story. And I could understand, after all, is owning club at the moment, they are looking for £108 million. That's a lot of money to spend. But I certainly would have said, we need this player. We need to go out and buy this player. And I would have certainly, if I was the owner of the club, I would have sanctioned it. I do hear the arguments against, especially with COVID. Currently, the club is losing £5 million if it's on a match day, if there are no supporters there. But at the end of the day, Manchester United is a tremendous pull for sponsorship, for commercial partnership, and that young player would be a very fine long-term investment. As long as he keeps on the pitch and he avoids injury, it would be a fine investment. So I certainly would have pushed to ensure that we signed him, and I would have met the price. I think it's simple as that.
The whole point, of course, is that when you came onto the scene, you had the money to buy the football club. It wasn't just all about that. It wasn't just about, I'm going to spend 10, 20 million pounds on players. The whole point was you saw the potential for what Manchester United could be as an organisation, the money that they could make. And you'd have been generating money in your mind to pay for these players. It wasn't, you weren't spending £2.3 million out of your pocket. This was what the football club was going to earn using your blueprint. So tell us about the blueprint.
Absolutely. I'd been working on that blueprint for a long time, and I knew Manchester United, with all its history, with all its tremendous worldwide support, was always going to be a perfect model to achieve what the industry was soon to be heading for. I remember very clearly in '89, everyone said, "Oh, Sky TV, no one want a squirrel or a dish on the side of your house. No one's ever going to change from terrestrial television," which was always a nonsense. We were heading headlong into the digital age. We were always going to be able to beam the greatest product in the sporting world, which is the English First Division, now the Premier League. And it's what football fans throughout the world wanted to see, because it is the most exciting league, with all respect to the Bundesliga and all respect to the other great leagues in Europe. The English Football League is, Premier League is what everyone wanted to see. So Rupert Murdoch was right to back his own understanding of what sporting fans wanted. And I'd researched it very carefully, and I knew that was around the corner. Sky was launched, of course, in '89 when I launched my own bid. And I knew that would change the industry forever. But also, it wasn't just TV. After all, Manchester United today, its sponsorship exceeds matchday income by almost double. Its commercial partnerships, because of its tremendous brand value, were always going to bring in huge sums of revenue. commercial partnerships now 44% of all Red Devil income, which exceeds the TV revenue, which is only 38%. So that blueprint really did see what the future held. And I was confident with the right structure in place at Old Trafford that every tenet of that blueprint could be achieved. And to be fair, although I say it myself, it has been achieved over the last 30 years. And I'm delighted for the club, delighted for the fans.
Talking about the blueprint, of course, it wasn't just a case of Michael Knighton comes along and tries to buy the football club and disappears. You ended up on the board for 3 years, and in my mind, looking at it now from the outside, it sounds like basically the football club used all your ideas, and the football club's emerged from this, what was a small organisation commercially, into this giant behemoth. And they've used your ideas, and then you've left. Is that how it turned out?
Well, the thing was this, really. I've got to be fair to Martin Edwards and the board, you know. He took my ideas and he did implement them. So you have to give credit to Martin Edwards and the commercial team. But when I was bidding for Manchester United, I told my bankers, I said, look, this club is not worth £10 million, which is what Martin Edwards wanted for his shares. It's worth £150 million minimum, and I think I can turn it into a truly international brand for a tremendously bright commercial future. The difference is, though, John, you've got to make sure those profits are spent on the pitch, and you've got to make sure those people buying the players and sourcing players really know what they're doing. And since Alex has left, and David Gill, to be fair, great partnership as they were, it's all got a bit pear-shaped. So the owners must really look at their executive team, I think, and say, why is it failing? Why is it going wrong? And I've got some questions of my own, really, there. I don't know what the fans think about this, really, but you have to question owners who don't really invest their own money into what fans want to see. When you look at Chelsea, when you look at Tottenham Hotspur, over the last 5 years, the chairman owner of Chelsea spent more than 500 million. The owners of Tottenham spent more than 400 million of their own money. Manchester United's owners haven't spent any of their own money over the last 5 years. In fact, they've taken £89 million out of the football club in the last 5 years. And they can't deny those statistics. But to be fair to them, they've also sanctioned in the last 7 years £1 billion of player acquisitions. So, you know, these are all statistics one must bear in mind when you're trying to weigh up the pros and cons. But I do feel that they need, you need owners with a more hands-on approach. It's not just about the business model. You've got to have the right people in place, source the players and go and get them and stop pussyfooting about. I would question why you've got a pair of investment bankers sourcing players or trying to do deals. You've got Matt Judge, the invisible Matt Judge. People know very little about him. He was, I think, an investment banker. He's got a degree in economics from Bristol. But, you know, where's the director of football? Why isn't Alex Ferguson director of football? Or Paul Scholes? Or someone with a real football acumen, which is undeniable and unquestioned. So I would look at the executive team. And when you're paying people like Mr. Woodward, I don't know Mr. Woodward, never met him, seems a perfectly nice man as a human being. Would he be my vice executive chairman? No, he wouldn't. I would never put an accountant or an ex-investment banker in charge of a football club. Okay, on the business side, perhaps, but not to be running the football side. And certainly this Matt Judge, he wouldn't be doing the deals for me. But those are just my opinions.
The thing is, a lot of people probably don't realise that you're a football man. You played football, you were an apprentice with Coventry, an injury cut short your career. Your great-grandfather played football for Sheffield Wednesday, he was an FA Cup winner and a successful team. And you clearly still have a passion for Manchester United. How frustrating do you find it now, looking in from the outside?
Well, that's very interesting because, you see, the club never looked back from that cameo exhibition, the juggling act, in '89. And people forget Alex has had a pretty torrid time, and the fans were calling for his head. You know, tar off Fergie, it's all crap. You've had 3 years, move on. But what they didn't realise, Alex Ferguson was putting some tremendous foundation stones down with the whole structure of the scouting side and the schoolboy side and the youth side and the playing side. So he was building for the future, but he did need money. He needed money that Martin Edwards didn't have, and despite his best efforts, didn't seem to generate the sort of commercial partnerships that were out there, or potentially. He clearly didn't see the potential, with all respect to Martin Edwards. If you could see where the football industry per se was heading, and Manchester United in particular, Martin wouldn't have sold me his shareholding for £10 million. It's as simple as that. I identified the true value and potential value of Manchester United. That is undeniable. Some people might know a book was written about it recently by Philip Vine, and Philip Vine looked at all the evidence. He looked at the blueprint. The blueprint that's published in that book was the copy I gave to actually the Bank of Scotland. And that's the blueprint they had. Martin had a slightly different version, but the bank had that version because it showed them how we could de-gear the borrowing that I was borrowing. But at least it was my own assets, my own money, and the bank's money. I wasn't just leveraging, which is what the current owners did. When they paid best part of 800 million, 790 million pounds for Manchester United, they used a lot of the club's assets. And the club in the early years of their reign, certainly for the first 5 years of their reign, they've been there 15 years, was incredibly highly geared. And their business model is all about business, and yet they're not getting it right, despite the £1 billion they've spent in the last 7 years on players. They've lost their way again. They've almost moved back to where they were pre-1989. Very frustrating, very frustrating.
You mentioned a book. I've got the book here. I'm reading it at the moment. It is absolutely fascinating. And it's there in black and white, the blueprint.
Yep.
I can't help thinking, though, how frustrating is it for you to have been in that situation? You bought Man United for £10 million. You've got this £20 million deal to relaunch the football club. Imagine if you were there now, how do you think the football club would be going? Would you be saying to the manager, get who you want and we'll find the money because you can make the money? How would it work?
I said in that blueprint, the reason one must pursue and explore and exploit every commercial avenue is not to pay off my overdraft, not to line my own pockets. It's to enable Manchester United to go out and buy any player in the world, no matter what the cost. That was my aim. And it's only when you generate those level of profits that you can go out and buy any player in the world. Manchester United have been in that position now, literally, for the last, certainly 25 years. And I played my part in that because I was only there for 3 years. We won the FA Cup. We won the Football League Cup, joint owner of the Charity Shield. We won the European Cup Winners' Cup. We won the European Super Cup. We even won the Youth Cup. So that short little window, we never looked back. And then, of course, as the world knows, I left. I went to buy the 92nd Football Club in the league up in Carlisle. But I left because I didn't like what I was hearing from the big five clubs about the breakaway in the Premier League. I thought it was right, but I didn't like the noises about, well, forget about the other 72 rump. Everyone wants to watch us. As a football purist and football fan, I thought, I don't want any part of this. I'm going to leave and I'll buy the lowest team out of 92, which I did, Carlisle. Very mixed fortunes, to be fair. We had 5 great years. Change of editor at the local paper, all the changed things. But the point is about football, unless you're generating income, you're not going to achieve much on the field of play, because today, the game at the highest level is all about money and how much you can spend. And to buy clubs now at the very highest level, it's out of reach of your ordinary commoner gardener millionaire. It's a billionaire's game. But if I was there now, I would be saying, this club isn't for sale. We're going to go on to greater things. We're going to generate even more funds, and there is not one single player that we cannot buy. And we go and we pay the money. Clearly, if you're being exploited, I don't think you are at 100 million quid for the young Sancho, but if you're being asked a ridiculous amount of money for a player that you just don't think merits that kind of money, then if, with your football knowledge and your football people around you, then you know when you're literally being taken advantage of. But I'd be running a very different model to the Glazers. I mean, that's a fact.
I mean, some of the things you say are music to the ears of the football fans at Manchester United. We want to feel like we can sign any player. We want to see exciting players at Old Trafford. And I've been speaking to a few people that knew I was coming to see you, and one of my good friends is Alan Wardle, who runs the Association of Former Players, and he sent his very best wishes because
thank you.
Back in the day when you were in charge, when you were having your 62 days as chairman elect, and you were making plans for the future, and then when you stayed on the board, but before that, you did say to the former players that you wanted one of their members to be on the board, and I'm just interested what your mindset was there, and do you think it's important to involve the former players? I think you were going to have David Sadler, was it, on the board?
Yeah, I would have certainly put a couple of former players. I know Bobby was there, of course, and his contribution was valuable, but I think you needed more of a presence than just one player. And I think the fans should certainly have representation on the board, so long as that fan is sensible and well respected, and he's educated in the whys and wherefores of how to run a big company as well as a football club, because, you know, football at that level is a very big business now. I mean, you are running a huge operation. And so long as you don't lose focus of why you're generating funds, you're not generating funds just to take out huge dividends for yourself. You're generating funds because you want the best interests of the football fans and the football team, and you want to keep yourselves right at the top of the tree. I'm afraid Manchester United has slipped well below where it should be for the size of its magnitude. For me, you know, you can keep your Barcelonas, your Real Madrids, and your Bayern Munichs. Manchester United is still the greatest magical football club in all the world. And it's lost its way. There's no two ways about it. Something is wrong, because you should never finish out the top three. You should be winning more trophies, and it hasn't been doing that. So if I was the owner today, I'd be wanting to know why, and I would be taking action to resolve it. I wouldn't just be a distant observer, and I wouldn't just be installing a couple of investment bankers like Woodward and Matt Judge and hope it's all going to work out, because it's not working out. And I'd get in there and I'd sort it out. And that's what they should be doing.
Over the last couple of days, we spent a bit of time together, and I do sense that you do really regret not being involved now. And I've been sort of canvassing a few questions from some people on my private Facebook groups, and one of the guys, a friend of mine, Steve Donoghue, who's the leader of the Stretford Enders Worldwide, and his question to you was going to be, you know, if you were that supportive of Manchester United, where were you in 2005 when there was a chance to possibly rival the Glazers? What happened there?
Why didn't they come and see me? Why didn't they approach me? I would have been at the front of the line. I would have said, "Yeah, what can I do? I'm happy to make a contribution. You can use my ideas. You can use my experience. Perhaps they, who knows? Perhaps they read some nonsense in the tabloids." Because there have been some absurd stories written about Michael Knighton. We're all aware of them. I'm a semi-intelligent human being. I love the game. I've always loved it. I have two great passions in life. Outside of loved ones, I've got my football, which will always be there, and of course I've got art. And those two things have always been my great passions. But the Red Knights, perhaps, again, led by bankers, you know. And of course, they did make a bid in the end. They didn't match the value that the Glazers were putting on the club at the time. The Glazers are incredibly shrewd business operators, but that's what they are first, and they're perhaps football lovers second. Perhaps. Who knows? One tries to be fair to them, and you have to be fair. You have to respect the fact they have made £1 billion available, but it wasn't their money. It was the club's money. Manchester United will always generate that sort of income to spend on players. But to be fair to them, at least they've sanctioned that. But they've also taken a lot of money out of the football club. 20, 21 million, whatever it is a year. Certainly the best part of 90 million over the last 5 years. You know, that's a little bit rich, really. And I think they should look at themselves. Is it time to sell? Is it time to move on? But you have to consider their side of the story. They have made £1 billion available for players over 7 years.
I'm talking about the future. I know you have got another Blueprint 2. So does that mean that you can see a day when you can get involved again with a big football club? And could that be Manchester United?
Yeah, I have written a second blueprint. I think we have a copy of it here. It is. This is the document. This is the future.
It's got to be worth a bit of money then.
It's called English Commercial Blueprint, MK 2 years 2020 to 2035. No one could have predicted COVID and the massive impact we've had on the football industry generally. A lot of football clubs are struggling, but yes, I would get involved with football again if the opportunity was right and I felt I could make a contribution. That blueprint is more revolutionary than the first blueprint that I researched and wrote back in the 80s. I know the game has moved on, and you know the arrogance of every football club. Oh, we can't be doing any more than we are doing now. It was the same sort of noises I was hearing at Old Trafford in 1989. Oh, we're doing everything we can. There's nothing else we can do to generate income. Well, let me tell you, there are certain things that football clubs, even today, and I'm astonished they're not doing the things, but it's all in that blueprint.
Okay, it's obviously worth a lot of money, so I'll keep that. No, I'm joking.
I'm convinced that there are huge further opportunities. I might be looking at China, because China will be world leaders in football within the next 20, 30 years. Of that, there is no doubt. I know people criticise China on many fronts. They're a wonderful nation, wonderful people, and I think that they will be extremely positive for the football industry going forward. But yeah, a UK football club, I'm available. Go on my website and get my telephone number, give me a call. Yeah.
One of the things that I've been thinking about the last couple of days as well, when we've been talking about the value of the football club, I know there is an offer, we think, on the table for about 4 billion, but I did read somewhere that you wouldn't sell the football club for 4 billion. I mean, how highly do you value Manchester United?
If I were Manchester United, I would never sell it until the day I died, because, look, you don't... And I have to say, I don't think the Glaziers are rushing to sell. Why would you, when you are sitting on the sporting world's greatest brand name, and it is, and you are able to siphon off best part of £90 million over the last 5 years into your pockets? You've got all that prestige and all that kudos. Why would they be rushing to sell it? I wouldn't sell it, full stop. I wouldn't sell it for 100 billion, never mind 4 billion. But isn't it amazing? I mean, within less than a decade, within 9 years of my securing the majority shareholding for 10 million, it was valued at 2.3 billion. They had an offer from Rupert Murdoch's Sky for 600 and odd million shortly after I'd left. So, yeah, the game is ever fascinating and ever wonderful. And I'm sure Manchester United, they need to get back on track because they are falling behind. I mean, look, even Liverpool. I mean, they finished 33 points behind Liverpool. Have they created a squad of players and a structure this coming season to claw back that 33-point difference on Liverpool? Sad to say, I don't think they have.
I think a lot of people are interested in how do you make your money. I know you've been involved in property, and we're in this amazing building here, and we are actually doing a little promotional video to promote the Michael Knighton collection. So tell me, what is the Michael Knighton collection, and is that going to be the next big fortune?
Well, look, I've always been immersed in art. I've loved art ever since. Look, I'm a Libra. We're supposed to love all things beautiful. I don't know whether astrology really works or not. I'm not sure. I'm sure it doesn't. But I've always loved art and beautiful things. And yeah, the Michael Knighton collection is all going on sale next year. And certainly if I'm going to repurchase Manchester United, I'll need every penny I can get my hands on.
I know you're very modest though, because we are going to do another video about the art, because it's a whole video on it's a whole story on its own, and we're going to do something that's going to hopefully help you raise some funds to buy Manchester United. I don't know, that's wishful thinking, but you are being very modest though, because we're not going to give the whole story away.
Yes.
But basically, you are a little bit better than an amateur, aren't you? Because some of this stuff that I've been filming, I know it's not all yours.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's worth a lot of money, isn't it? Some of this collection.
Yes, there's no question. It is a very valuable collection from a materialistic perspective. But I've never bought a painting because it's materialistic to value. I've bought a painting because it's beautiful and I want to enjoy it. So if you're interested in art and you're out there, I hope you come and see the collection when it's on display next year.
Yeah, and as I say, we're going to save that for another video.
Yeah.
But as an artist, I mean, and a football lover, a guy who's spent time in the game as an apprentice, and you actually ended up being a manager for a brief time at Carlisle.
Well, I would never say I was a manager. And the press called me a manager. And to be fair, it was young David Wilkes and John. Well, not so young now, are they?
Okay.
David Wilkes. And,
So that was basically I've been misinformed by the media.
Absolutely, yeah,
Because I've always taken it on board.
I was never the manager. I never look. All my ex-Carlisle colleagues will tell you, I never took a coaching session. I would have a kickabout. I never did a team talk because really the managers were at that time David Wilkes and John Halpin, great guys. I did say I would take the flak because when I appointed them, because I was chairman and owner of Carlisle, when I appointed them, I said, look, I'll take the flak. I was a tracksuit chairman anyway, being an ex-PE teacher. I was always a tracksuit chairman. So the media got hold of that, said, oh, he sacked Mervyn Day and made himself manager. That is absolutely untrue. It's on the same par as I speak to flying saucer. I mean, you couldn't make it up, really.
I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised because I know what it's like. I've worked in the media all my life, and I've seen how things get twisted. And even I was fooled because you can't believe what you read on Wikipedia, can you?
No, but to be fair, look, I set myself as a hostage to fortune because I did wear a tracksuit a lot. That's because, look, I was a lot younger. I was fit, and I enjoyed wearing a tracksuit. I enjoyed getting out to play five-a-side and have a kickabout with the players. Of course you do, but I was never the manager of Carlisle United, ever. And it's a nonsense to say that I was.
Fascinating.
But involved, of course. And
on a serious note, though, what I'd like to say is, how were you introduced to Carlisle? Because I think there's a connection with Harry Gregg, isn't
absolutely. It? Wonderful man. Harry Gregg, one of life's truly great people, Harry Gregg. Why that man wasn't knighted, I've got no idea. I mean, look, some people say, oh, Harry's Marmite, you loved him or you hated him. No. Harry was a true hero. He was a true man's man. And anyone who knew Harry Gregg would not be in the least surprised that he didn't run away from that aeroplane in the travesty of Munich in 1958. Harry ran towards it. He dragged people off the plane. He saved the life of Bobby Charlton. He was carrying people on his shoulder. He wanted to keep going back when it was about to explode at any time. That's the measure of the great Harry Gregg. God rest his soul. Rest in peace, Harry. He's recently passed on, as you know. He became a great friend of mine when I was at Old Trafford, a wonderful emotional supporter of mine. And yes, he introduced me to... when I told him I was...
the connection, of course, with Harry was that you'd been manager of Carlisle.
Absolutely.
Because we need to mention that, don't we?
Harry Gregg was once the manager of Carlisle, so he knew it very well. And I was actually travelling down from Scotland one day, and he phoned me. And I said, you'll never believe this, Harry. Look, I'll tell you because I trust you and I know it'll go no further. I'm actually leaving Old Trafford. I've only told Martin Edwards at this stage that I'm going to be resigning. I'm looking to buy a football club. What do you know about Carlisle? Because I'm just passing it. He said, Michael, I was manager there. I know all about Carlisle. In fact, I'll do the introductions for you. I said, well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to scout around it. And of course, it had a good captive geographical area. It had a fabulous, all the criteria that I looked for.
History as well.
It had a good history. All the criteria I looked for. If I was buying another football club, Carlisle fitted the bill. And I did a lot of research when I spoke to Harry, and Harry said, I will affect the introduction, which he did. And he contacted Robin Liddell, who was a director and chartered accountant, oddly enough. God rest Robin as well, because he's also passed on. But he contacted Robin Liddell. He said, I'm not going to tell you who you're going to meet, but there's a guy who wants to buy Carlisle United. This is the date, this is the time, and I'm not telling you who it is. But he set the meeting up in Yorkshire, in the Cedar Court Hotel, at Ainley Top, between Leeds and Huddersfield. And I walked in, and Robin Liddell, of course, I had a fairly high profile at that time, knew me straight away and said, "Oh, good God, it's Michael, Manchester United." And I walked in there, got on famously, and yes, the rest is history. I bought the club, ended up owning 96% of it, and had a wonderful time at that lovely little club in the north. They would have gone out of the league that year in 1992, but Aldershot went bankrupt. So Carlisle actually finished 92nd.
I was going to say that there was a famous moment in history of football. Was it your final game?
No, it wasn't my final game. It was one of the great Jimmy Glass.
Jimmy Glass. I mean, that's one of the great moments of sport, isn't it?
Do you know, I was involved with Carlisle United for exactly a decade. Wonderful years, up and down. There'll be mixed feelings with some fans. Of course there will be. They don't know the true story. They don't know all the facts. One day they will, I hope. But for the first 5-6 years there, you know, we won championships. We were in the playoffs. We went to Wembley twice. We won more silverware in that period than they'd done in their previous history. It was a wonderful, wonderful period. But football at that level is the rough and the smooth. What goes up comes down. It's just the nature of the game at that level. And if you haven't got the millions and millions to spend, which I didn't have, millions and millions to spend, then you've just really got to, you know, duck and dive and marshal the club the best you can. But the Jimmy Glass goal, it wasn't for the lack of investment in players. We were spending a lot of money on players, but we had a series of injuries and we were struggling and we were in the relegation zone. Jimmy Glass was on loan, goalkeeper from Swindon. We needed to win on the final day of the season. We needed to win, not draw. We needed to win. Otherwise, we would have been relegated. And the famous Jimmy Glass goal happened in the 95th minute. And he left his goal mouth, raced down the pitch. And I turned around and I said to John, the doctor, I said, he'll score. John can remember that, I'm sure. I said, he'll score. So we're 95th of the minute. We're seconds away from relegation. Scarborough, who were the team to either stay in the Football League or they be relegated, their game had finished on 90 minutes. They were all standing waiting. They'd popped the champagne corks because it was 1-1, and if we drew, we went down. Jimmy Glass raced down. It was 95 minutes. Brilliant. We had a corner. Brilliant header, I think, from Scott Dobie. Ricochet from the keeper. Jimmy Glass, bang. Goal, 95th minute. Wonderful occasion. It saved our status. Scarborough were relegated. We stayed in. So you can say what you like about that. I think that was a great occasion because of what was at stake, what it meant to the supporters, and you know, you've got to take the ups and the downs. That was a down in some way, but a very memorable occasion. So well done, Jimmy Glass. He then asked me for a contract which was worth about some ridiculous amount of money, which I refused, of course, because we simply didn't have the money, and I don't think the supporters have ever forgiven me for that. But look, that's just the wonder of football. It's a tremendous, just a tremendous sport. You know,
it's a great story. It's fantastic hearing you talk with such passion about the game, and I'm wondering, where does that rank alongside your proudest achievements, and where does that rank alongside where it all began with the ball juggling in front of the Stretford end? That must have been every schoolboy's dream, but it was for me. I was jealous.
Look, as I said at the start of this interview, there was logic behind that cameo piece and juggling the ball. But who wouldn't want to go and juggle the ball at Old Trafford, the theatre of dreams, after all, and juggle that ball and then take it to the Stretford end and smash it in the goal? I was just fulfilling every football fan's dream. Whether you be a dad taking your son, and certainly every schoolboy would want to do what I did. A wonderful day, wonderful occasion. I do exactly the same again, despite the frustration of many and the castigation of many. I would do exactly the same again. Look, football's entertainment. It's enjoyment. It's a release. You go to support your team. You can forget about your troubles and the whole world for 90 minutes. You're supporting your team. That's what the game is all about. It's about camaraderie. It's about togetherness. The quicker we can all get back in football stadiums, the better. It's such a key component in the fabric of our society. Needs to see our stadiums full again. So let's hope this wretched COVID can
absolutely
be dissipated sooner rather than later. But no, great. That occasion on that day has got to rank up there, other than your children being born.
Of course, yeah. Obviously, the game has changed such a great deal over the last 3 decades since you almost bought Manchester United for £10 million. You'd have to sell a lot of paintings to be able to afford to buy Manchester United now, but you still dream with this blueprint too that perhaps you could be involved with Manchester United again at some point.
Well, I'd love to be involved with Manchester United again. I mean, who wouldn't be? The clubs now at the highest level, they're out of reach now of even very wealthy millionaires. It's now a billionaires game. I'm talking now about any Premier League club and even a Championship club. You've got to be pretty wealthy. I mean, look at my local team, Derby, another team very close to my heart. 3 teams I've always had locally: Derby, Forest, Sheffield Wednesday. My great grandfather played for. Manchester United is bound to be in my blood forevermore, and I'm still a fan, massive fan of Manchester United. So of course I would love to make a contribution. The Glazers, look, I think they've had one interview in the last 15 years, and I think their lack of communication with the fans is part of the problem, especially when things are not going well. They need to get in front of the camera, get in front of the supporters, and they need to explain what their ambitions are, where they think it's going wrong, where they think it's going right. They need to explain their business model, what their hopes are. But they don't. They just they don't communicate. They leave it to Woodward. They leave it to their team. And I think that's a mistake. I really do. But yes, look, there's no chance of the Glazers contacting me. But if they did, if I gave them that blueprint, I think they'd be astonished at what's in there. And I think we could take even the great Red Devils onto a different plane again. I really do. This is why I am confident that I can legitimately criticise the likes of Woodward and Matt Judge. They're bankers. That's what they are. That's their background: accountancy, economics, bankers. They wouldn't be my people in charge. With all respect to them, they're very nice human beings, I'm sure. Nothing against them, but I wouldn't install them into the current role that they are carrying out at Manchester United. And I'd certainly have a director of football. I certainly would. Alex, I know he's not had the best of health over recent years, but well, they've got the greatest football mind, along with the young, some of School 92, Scholes. Why isn't Paul Scholes getting more involved at that level?
We're tweening there's a few brains there, isn't it, the class of 92? But it's been fascinating listening to your stories, and we'll have to do this again sometime. But I think a lot of fans will be very interested in what your insight is into how a football club can and should be run, and some of the positivity and the communication. I mean, I've said to the football club many times that the Glazers, the owners, should be communicating more with the fans. I'm not here to directly criticise the football club. I want to ask questions, and I want other people like you to come up with solutions. But I just want you to leave us with a final message for the fans. I mean, one of the things that breaks my heart at the moment is with Man United fans. It's very polarised. A lot of people. Social media now has become sort of rampant with people for and against different situations, whether it's the owners or the manager. And you remember what it was like because you were there at the beginning before Fergie won his trophies.
Absolutely.
So what's the message to the fans now? Should they get behind Ollie? Is it kind of reminiscent in a way of where Fergie was when you were taking over the football club. Is Ollie going to get the time? Because in the modern game, people don't get the time. So I just want to finish with you. I want to thank you very much for welcoming us to your home.
Thank you, John.
And what's your message to the fans? What should we be doing now as football fans of Man United? Because you're one of those. You're one of us.
My message to the fans is this. Look, you are very privileged. And the club is very privileged to have you because you're the greatest fans in the whole of the football world. And you've got the greatest football club in the whole of the football world. Ollie should be given a little bit more time. He had a great start. I mean, when he went there, what was it, 10, 12 games unbeaten?
It's a record.
It was fantastic. And look, he's got cult status. He's got nothing to prove as an ex-player because he did it all. And he's a thoroughly nice man. I don't know him personally, but he comes over as an extremely level-headed, nice man. But he needs to be given the tools to do the job, and he does need to be given a bit more time. And yes, of course, the supporters should get behind him. Ollie knows if he doesn't deliver, certainly this season or next season, he knows that his job will be on the line. He knows that. And I would say to every Manchester United fan, indeed every football fan out there at the moment in this wretched COVID time, support your club, support your team. Let's get back into stadiums. And for God's sake, this government, let's just open up the gates again. We can all be safe and secure and wear our masks and so on, but we have to get back into the stadiums. To get back into the Theatre of Dreams in Old Trafford. And my final message to the fans is this. You keep doing what you're doing. You've got to question the Glazers. You've got to persuade them to come and talk to you. And they've got to deliver. Because they haven't delivered for the last 5 or 6 years. And unless they deliver, then I'm afraid, Glazier people, sell up and go. And let's get someone in there who can deliver what the fans really want, which is silverware and success. And the Reds just down the motorway have shown the way. If it doesn't break your heart to see what's happening down the M62 motorway, you're not really a Manchester United fan. It's as simple as that. You should be losing your sleep over this to finish 33 points behind the other Reds, the red side of Liverpool. So get your act together, sort it out, or wave bye-bye. That's my message.
That's bye-bye from you and bye-bye from me. Thanks very much, Michael. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and we'll bring you some more good content in the future. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thanks so much, John.